Welcome to Tracy True Crime. The story we will be talking about is about the twisted serial killer and cannibal, Jeffrey Lionel Dahmer, one of the world's most notorious serial killers. Of all the murder cases and serial killers I've known, Jeffrey Dahmer is the one that kept me up at night, thinking about the horrible things he did to his 17 victims. His crimes traumatized the whole world. Murder, cannibalism, sex with the dead. However, when you look at him, he just looks like a regular guy. Calm, someone you can just probably meet at work, at the grocery store, or anywhere. But inside his mind is just pure evil, an absolute psychopath who is very intelligent and knows how to deceive others. Jeffrey Lionel Dahmer was born on May 21, 1960 in Milwaukee, the first son of Lionel Herbert, a chemistry student pursuing his degree, and Joyce Annette Dahmer. They got him just before their first anniversary. As a child, Jeffrey was outgoing. He loves his family, loves posing to cameras, and as claimed by his father, everything was just enjoyable and happy. His father added that Jeffrey is an extremely curious child, that he seemed to want to play and feel things and get to know their texture. He always wanted to know what was going on. From an early age, Jeffrey had a fascination with animals, particularly dead animals. He collected large insects and kept it into jars. He then later on collected animal carcasses. On his way home after school, while he was inside their school bus, he would look out of the window and would be so thrilled to see roadkills, and would later on went back to where he found it and brought it to their family's tool shed, where he dismembered these animals and stored the parts in jars. It was believed that his fascination with bones started when he was 4 years old, as he saw his father collecting bones of small animals that died under their house. He would be so excited to hear the clanking noise of the bones. His father recalled at that time he did not thought of anything dark about his child. He only thought that it was just pure child curiosity. After moving 3 times, the Dahmers moved to Bath, Ohio. There, Dahmer developed into a very shy and withdrawn boy that his parents had to force him to socialize. During dinner, while they were eating chicken, Jeffrey asked Lionel what would happen if the chicken bones were placed in bleach. Lionel, who is proud of his son's curiosity, demonstrated how to safely bleach and preserve animal bones. That was later on incorporated with Jeffrey's preserving techniques into his victims' bone collection. When Jeffrey was 10 years old, his mother was hospitalized because of anxiety. Joyce began increasing her daily consumption of Equinil, laxatives, and sleeping pills, further minimizing her tangible contact with her husband and children. From then on, his parents' marriage began to fall apart. By his early teens, Dahmer was disengaged, tense, largely friendless, and his curiosity about dead animals continued to worsen. Just like before, he wanted to know what they looked like inside and collected them from the roadside in order to autopsy them. He then, at the early age of 14, started drinking alcohol and abused it in high school. In his freshman year, he was known by staff as polite and highly intelligent but with average grades. Dahmer then discovered that he was gay as he turned into his adolescent period. He told in an interview that he had a brief relationship with a teenage boy as he was in high school but never had intercourse. At this age, he began fantasizing about dominating and controlling a completely submissive male partner. When he was 16 years old, he would secretly watch a particular male jogger behind the woods near their home and fantasize of bringing him home unconscious and then making sexual use of his body. One day, he decided to conceal himself again in the bushes and waited for that male jogger, but he did not pass by on that day. Jeffrey later said that was his first attempt to attack someone. The year he graduated from high school was also the year his parents got divorced. The father moved to a nearby motel, and his mother moved back to Wisconsin with Dahmer's little brother, Dave. Jeffrey Dahmer, who just turned 18 at that time, stayed and lived alone in their family home. Well, what do you expect from an unstable teenager, alone in a big house, still mourning the divorce of his parents, and consuming alcohol out of control? 3 weeks after his graduation, Jeffrey committed his first murder on June 18, 1978. He picked up the hitchhiker, who was almost 19. He took him to his parents' house, invited him to just chill and drink few beers. The 19-year-old hitchhiker, who just came from a rock concert, agreed then to accompany Jeffrey. According to Jeffrey, the hitchhiker attracted him as he saw him bare-chested standing at the roadside. It automatically stirred his sexual feelings, but he knew that he was straight and that any sexual passes he made would be rejected. Dahmer proceeded to get the hitchhiker drunk, and when he tried to leave, Dahmer killed him by striking him in the head and strangling him with a barbell. Jeffrey then continued his sexual urges. While the hitchhiker lay dead, he pleasured himself. He dismembered his corpse, packed the body parts in plastic bags, and buried them behind his parents' home. He later exhumed the remains, crushed the bones with a sledgehammer, and scattered them across a wooded ravine. After his first murder, his father, along with his fiancée, visited the house where they found out that Jeffrey was living there alone. That August, Jeffrey enrolled at Ohio State University, major in business. However, after one quarter term, he dropped out. His recently remarried father at that time insisted that he join the army. In late December 1978, Jeffrey was then enlisted and was posted to Germany shortly thereafter. But his drinking problem persisted, and in early 1981, the army discharged him. Although German authorities would later investigate possible connections between Dahmer and murders that took place in the area during that time, it is not believed that he took any more victims while serving in the armed forces. After his return to Ohio, he resided with his father and stepmother. He continued to drink heavily and was arrested for disorderly conduct. This matter prompted his father to send Jeffrey to live with his grandmother in Wisconsin, but his alcohol problem continued, and he was arrested the following summer for indecent exposure. He was arrested once again in 1986 when two boys accused him of pleasuring himself in front of them. He received a 1-year probationary sentence. On November 20, 1987, Dahmer took his second victim, a 25-year-old man from Michigan. They checked into a hotel room and drank, and Dahmer eventually woke up to find the man dead with no memory of the previous night's activities. He then purchased a large suitcase to transport the body to his grandmother's basement, where he dismembered and pleasured himself on the corpse before disposing the remains. He excluded the severed head. He boiled it after 2 weeks and bleached it in an effort to retain the skull, but then the bleaching process failed, so he pulverized and disposed it. 2 months after his last victim, he met a 14-year-old Native American male prostitute. He promised him $50 to post nude pictures. He then drugged and strangled him on the floor of the cellar. Just like his last victim, he dismembered, excluded the head, tried to retain the skull, and failed, so he pulverized it. His fourth victim was a 22-year-old bisexual man he met outside a gay bar. He also offered him $25 in exchange to just spend the remainder of the night with him. He then drugged him with sleeping pills and strangled him with a leather strap, with Jeffrey performing oral intercourse upon the corpse. He then repeated the same procedure he made to his last victims. In September 1988, Jeffrey's grandmother asked him to move out because of her grandson's late nights, drunkenness, and the foul smell that is coming from the basement and the garage, though she had no knowledge of his other disgusting activities. He then found a one-bedroom apartment on North 25th Street and moved in. Dahmer was then arrested for drugging and molesting a 13-year-old boy whom he lured again to post nude pictures for him. He pleaded guilty, claiming that the boy had appeared much older. While waiting sentencing for his sexual assault case, Jeffrey used again his grandmother's basement to his gruesome crimes. He lured, drugged, strangled, sodomized, photographed, dismembered, and disposed his fifth out of his 17 victim, an aspiring model, and this victim is his favorite of all his other victims. He found this victim exceptionally attractive. He preserved this victim's head and private parts in acetone and stored them in his work locker. When he moved to a new address the following year, he took the remains with him. At his trial for child molestation in May 1989, Dahmer was the model of contrition, arguing in his own defense about how he had seen the error of his ways and that his arrest marked a turning point in his life. His defense counsel argued that he needed treatment, not incarceration, and the judge agreed, handing down a 1-year prison sentence on day release, allowing Dahmer to work at his job during the day and return to the prison at night, as well as a 5-year probationary sentence. However, Dahmer was granted an early release by the judge after serving only 10 months of his sentence. He briefly lived with his grandmother following his release, during which time he does not appear to have added to his body count. Before moving back into his own apartment in Milwaukee, where he made this apartment his own erotic death chamber. He began his killing spree over the following 2 years. His victim count accelerated, bringing his total from 5 to 17. He developed rituals while experimenting with chemical as means of the body disposal. He attempted crude lobotomies, drilling into victims' skulls while they were still alive and injecting them with muriatic acid. Dahmer then purchased a Polaroid camera which he took pictures of his victim in weird positions in his bathtub before dismembering them. His cannibalism started out of curiosity. He was curious what it would taste like. He wrapped his victim's heart, biceps, and portions of flesh in plastic bags and placed them in the fridge for later consumption. He ate parts of his victims so he can feel that they are with him forever.
It was a way of making me feel that they were a part of me.
On May 27, 1991, Dahmer's neighbor called the police to report that an Asian boy was running naked in the street. When the police arrived, the boy was incoherent, and they accepted the word of Dahmer that the boy was his 19-year-old lover. But in fact, the boy was 14 years old and the brother of the teenage boy he had molested 3 years earlier, the one that got him into trial of child molestation. The police believed him, so once the police left the scene, Dahmer killed the boy and proceeded with his usual rituals. The police did not even conduct a basic search in Jeffrey Dahmer's apartment. They would have found the body of Dahmer's 12th victim, who is still lying dead in his apartment, and would have put his gruesome crimes to an end, but they only took a cursory look around before leaving. Before he was finally arrested, Dahmer killed 5 more men. His killing spree ended when he was arrested on July 22, 1991. He offered his potential next victim $100 to accompany him to his apartment, to pose again for nude photos, drink beer, and keep him company. The name of his last victim is Tracy Edwards, a 32-year-old African-American man. As soon as Tracy entered Jeffrey's apartment, he noted a foul odor and boxes of hydrochloric acid, which Jeffrey then claimed to use for cleaning bricks. After a little bit of small talk, Jeffrey then told him to look at his tropical fish, where then Jeffrey placed a handcuff upon Tracy's wrist. When Tracy asked what is happening, Jeffrey failed to cuff his wrists together, then told Tracy to just accompany him to his bedroom and pose. While inside the bedroom, Tracy saw nude male posters on the wall, and the film The Exorcist 3 was playing. He also noted a strong odor emanated from a 7-gallon drum in the corner. Jeffrey then told him to just watch the movie. Tracy observed Jeffrey rocking back and forth and chanting. Jeffrey then placed his head on Tracy's chest and listened to his heartbeat with a knife pressed against his chest, and then Jeffrey told him, "I could eat your heart." In continuous attempts to prevent Dahmer from attacking him, Edward repeated that he was Dahmer's friend and that he was not going to run away. Luckily, he got a chance to escape when Jeffrey was having a lapse of concentration. He punched him in the face, knocking Dahmer off balance and ran out the front door. 2 Milwaukee police officers were led to Dahmer when they picked up Tracy Edwards, who was wandering the streets with handcuffs dangling from his wrist. They decided to investigate the man's claims that a weird dude had drugged and restrained him. They arrived at Dahmer's apartment, where he calmly offered to get the keys for the handcuffs. Tracy then told the police that Jeffrey twirled a large knife upon him and that this knife is in his bedroom. As the police entered the bedroom, there was indeed a large knife beneath the bed. He also saw an open drawer, which upon closer inspection contained scores of Polaroid pictures, many of which were human bodies in various stages of dismemberment. The police officer noted the decor indicated that they had been taken in the very apartment in which they were standing. The police officer walked into the living room to show them to his partner, muttering the words, "These are for real." As Jeffrey noticed that the police saw his hidden collection, he made an effort to resist arrest. The police then opened his fridge and revealed a freshly severed head of a black male. They then pinned down Jeffrey on the floor, and he muttered, "For what I did, I should be dead." More detailed searches revealed a head in the fridge, 3 more in the freezer, and a catalog of other horrors, including preserved skulls, jars containing genitalia, and extensive gallery of macabre Polaroid photographs of his victims. Dahmer's trial began in January 1992. Lionel Dahmer, his father, and his second wife attended the trial throughout. Dahmer initially pleaded not guilty to all charges, despite having confessed to the killings during police interrogation. He eventually changed his plea to guilty by virtue of insanity. His defense then offered the gruesome details of his behavior as proof that only someone insane could commit such terrible acts. The jury chose to believe the prosecution's assertion that Dahmer was fully aware that his acts were evil and chose to commit them anyway. On February 15, 1992, they returned after approximately 10 hours deliberation to find him guilty but sane on all counts. He was sentenced to 15 consecutive life terms in prison, with a 16th term tacked on in May. Upon sentencing, Dahmer was transferred to the Columbia Correctional Institution. For the first year of his incarceration, Dahmer was placed in solitary confinement due to concerns for his physical safety with fellow inmates. With Dahmer's consent, after 1 year in solitary confinement, he was transferred to a less secure unit, where he was assigned a 2-hour daily work detail cleaning the toilet block. He then requested a detective to give him a copy of the Bible. He devoted himself to Christianity and became a born-again Christian. An inmate attempted to slash Jeffrey with a razor, and he received wounds and was not seriously hurt. According to Dahmer's family, he had long been ready to die and accepted any punishment which he might endure in prison. When Jeffrey's mother, Joyce, calls him about his son's physical well-being, Jeffrey would say, "It doesn't matter, Mom. I don't care if something happens to me." On November 28, 1994, Dahmer was assigned to work with 2 other convicted murderers, Christopher Scarver and Anderson. After they had been left alone to complete their task, guards returned to find that Scarver had brutally beaten both men with a metal bar from the prison weight room. Jeffrey Dahmer was pronounced dead after approximately 1 hour. In 2015, Scarver spoke to the New York Post about his reason for killing Dahmer. Scarver alleged that he was disturbed not only by Dahmer's crimes, but by a habit Dahmer had developed of fashioning severed limbs from prison food to antagonize other inmates. Scarver said that he confronted Dahmer about his crimes before beating the two men to death. He also claimed that prison guards allowed the murders to happen by leaving them alone. In the 10-episode limited series on Netflix, spearheaded by Ryan Murphy, actor Evan Peters is taking on the role of Jeffrey Dahmer. And Ross Lynch, the boy who played Austin in Austin and Ally, he also played as a teenage Jeffrey Dahmer, which he portrayed really good, a must-see movie for true crime addicts. The movie is called My Friend Dahmer. Well, that brings us to the end of this video. Please subscribe to my channel for more stories. And may all of Jeffrey Dahmer's victims rest in peace.